The talent marketplace is a win-win for the organization and for employees because on an organizational level, attrition goes down. So you keep your best people. Instead of them going on LinkedIn and finding a job outside, they're looking for a job within your organization, which is great.
Andrew, welcome to the show. How are you?
I'm very well. How are you?
I'm good. It's strange to see you. I feel like we've met so many times, but only virtually.
Right. Finally.
But it feels so normal, don't you think? Like it feels like we've always seen each other in person, even though we've only ever seen you virtually.
Totally. Hybrid working. It's 2023.
Yeah. Was you surprised at how tall I am? Or small I am?
Yes, I was.
You never know, right?
Yeah. No, on camera you just see this part, and it's I was like, woo.
Yeah. How's life anyway? How's family?
Everything's good. Life's great. It's Paris, end of summer.
How long have you been in Paris for?
I've been in Paris since 2020. I moved during the pandemic, and it was pretty tough for the first part.
Yeah.
And then, Paris is back to being the amazing city it is.
Yeah. Was it a big culture shock, like difference from where you came from?
I was in Boston before.
Okay.
I was in Boston with Schneider and Dubai before that, and a stint in Paris. So it was not all new.
Yeah, you've been around then.
Yeah, I have.
Yeah.
And I spent a lot of time in Paris in my previous jobs. So
with Schneider.
So with Schneider.
Yeah.
And Baker Hughes and other companies. So It was fun to go back to Paris and actually live. Yeah.
Before we jump into the podcast in more detail, tell everyone a little bit more about your background and your journey to the role that you're in now.
Well, I've been in HR for almost 20 years. I've been alternating between centers of expertise, so everything from talent acquisition, talent management, leadership, learning, rewards, and HR business partnering. So I've done the whole gamut of HRBP, HR director, HR VP.
Have you done compensation and benefits yet?
For a region.
Or you skipped that one?
I did. I did rewards at some
you did
point.
rewards. Sorry, I didn't catch you say that. Sorry.
So it's like everything in HR
you really
for
did.
almost 20 years.
Wow.
Today I manage talent at Ubisoft, the global talent function. So talent acquisition, talent management, learning, and everything in between.
Nice.
And it's a lot of fun. Gaming is fun.
We should probably say that. Like, I assume as a gamer that everyone knows who Ubisoft is. Maybe you should give them a bit of background about the company.
Yeah, I mean, Ubisoft is one of the world leaders in gaming.
Yeah.
And that's what we're most known for. But we also do other things other than gaming, like TV shows and some movies.
Yeah.
And arcade games. So it's quite a lot of gaming adjacent, but mostly gaming. Some of our biggest games, I'm sure many of your viewers have seen and heard of. I know that you have.
Yeah, me and Ivan.
Like Assassin's Creed and Far Cry and Rainbow Six and others.
Must make your life quite good in terms of attracting talent into the business.
That is true. I think I'm very lucky with our employer brand.
Yes,
we have a very strong employer brand. We keep working on that. Part of my team is also working on employer brand and our EVP and all of that. But I have to say, in terms of name recognition, every time I'm somewhere and I say I'm from Ubisoft, a lot of eyes start shining, and which is great.
It's funny. I said to you before we hit record, I was going to surprise you that we were going to play some games, and you were like, "No." Is there like an unspoken you have to be good at playing games to work in the company as well?
Well, you know what? You don't. It's just that's one of the questions that I asked in my interviews. Like, do I have to be a gamer? Because I'm like the 80s and 90s gamer. I'm not a multiplayer. I like gaming on my own. I like games that have a start and an end, because I feel like I have some gratification in ending the game.
Yeah.
There are a lot of our games that are like that, and it's a lot of fun. But I like gaming on my own. I don't like, multiplayer or player versus player or open world games.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm definitely subpar when it comes to that. And especially you being a gamer for so many years, I do not want to take on this competition.
I'm glad I didn't set it up now. I would have made you feel really uncomfortable trying to play a game. And let's live stream it to LinkedIn and made you a bit more stressful. Something I know you're really passionate about, we've spoken about this before offline, is skills. You said to me, skills everywhere, and I'd love to hear about how you've seen this impact and evolve the employee life cycle and journey.
Sure. Well, the world has changed. The HR world, I'm sure you're always interviewing HR leaders. They're telling you pretty much the same. Our HR world has changed. For the last maybe 30, 40 years, we've been hiring people based on what's your education, how many years of experience you have in a specific field. Well, all that is changing, because today, if you have 10 years of experience in coding, that means nothing, because what you were doing 10 years ago is not the same that you were using 5 years ago. And it's definitely not the same of the newer technologies that are happening 2 years ago. So what we want to do, at least at Ubisoft, is to make sure that we use skills as a currency. This is your currency to get into the organization. We're hiring more and more based on skills. What are the skills that you have? What is the competency level in these skills? But also in terms of promotion, also in terms of internal mobility. Today, when we're moving people around, we're not looking at how many years of experience they have in something specific. We're looking at, what are the games that you shipped? What skills do you have in this function? And that's your key. So it really is using skills as a currency. What we would like to do down the road is maybe one day also use skills as currency in terms of pay. But that's a bit further down the road. Overall, how do we use these skills everywhere for the growth of the life cycle of an employee?
It's super interesting, because I told you a quick story before we hit record about my background, because I was in a company for 10 years and it was required you needed a degree.
Yes.
But I said, I don't understand why you need a degree to be good at these skills. And the HR manager was a bit stunned, didn't know what to say at the time. And I ended up working there for free just to prove, even if I don't have a degree, I can pick up these skills and I can execute on that. And I was there for 10 years and they still didn't change that policy.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure that still exists everywhere. I can see some intern jobs posted online where you need 2 years of experience and a master's degree.
Why is that? Why do you think that this is still the case?
In my opinion, two things. One, comfort zone. This is what we've always done. And I think for many HR people, but also many business leaders, this is the way, and we don't want to do any other way. And there's not a big imperative that has happened that pushes us to change that. When COVID happened, there was this imperative to start working more from home, work remote, and all that. That has not happened for hiring. And I think there's also a bit of, this is what we have on the inside. And we just want to replicate. Chris is a great talent. He has this sort of education.
So we should go and look for that then.
Right.
Also, what does that mean for diversity as well?
Well, not great
Do you know what I mean?
for diversity, because you end up, and that is something that at Ubisoft we're trying to get away from, in order for us to hire more diverse candidates coming from maybe different educational backgrounds. Because when you're hiring for maybe a developer or a programmer, you do need some form of education, of technical education. But we're trying to diversify even the sources of this technical education, not the same types of universities, not the same types of institutes, in order for us to get a more diverse candidate slate. The more you hire based on skills, the more you see that diversity flourishes, because some of the barriers are no longer there.
What does that mean from a technical point of view? Walk me through the steps that you took to become a skills-based organization, or that you're taking.
Various things. One, first, it started with the strategy. When we came together as an HR leadership team, when we came together with the business and said, what is working, what is not working, how can we enhance what we already have? Ubisoft is a very diverse and inclusive organization. This has been there for a long time. How can we rally diversity plus hiring the best skills? Because at the end of the day, that is what we're looking for. The best talents out there. First, we need to have skills as a currency, as part of one of the pillars of our strategy. Two, in our job descriptions, you start seeing a lot more skills. These are the hashtag this skill, hashtag the other skill. That is on our ATS, that is on LinkedIn. You start seeing that also internally, because we want to push to hire based on skills. Our hiring managers have been trained to look more for skills rather than, the typical, what is your education, how many years of experience you have, because that's not very indicative of how great are you going to be at your job. But if you have the skills and we can assess you based on these skills, then you're going to be great. I mean, one of the examples that I can give you is, we currently use a tool called Codility, and it is an assessment tool for coding and programmers. And it's online, and it verifies the level of skills in programming.
I was going to ask you, how do you measure? So that's great.
Well, that's it. Instead of actually saying to someone, well, how many years of experience do you have? We just send them a kind of an assessment, and they do it. And it is AI proof. So, you can't cheat your way into it. That's the first question that a lot of people ask us, like, oh, but maybe AI can do this job. It typically can't. That's one of the different ways that we're trying to make sure that this lives up to where we want it to be.
Did that influence your ATS decision, or did the current one already fit the model in terms of how does it identify skills in like the CV and the cover letter, or in just the onboarding process?
Yeah, the current one already had part of that, and our recruiters are trained to use it as such.
Who do you use, if I'm asking?
We use Smart Recruiters.
Nice. What did that training look like? You mentioned training. What did that look like? Was it in person, online? Like what were the things that you did?
When you look at, talent acquisition as a function, or recruiters in general, there is a lot of work to get sourcing, to find people. What we're trying to do is to shift this part from recruiters into technology. So using skills and using matching of skills through the tools that we have, whether external or internal, recruiters have a bit more time on their hand in order for them to coach people managers who are hiring managers. That coaching is in person. That coaching is through online learning. That coaching is through some of the tools that we have.
Love that.
And that is changing the role of the recruiter, going from a sourcer or an interviewer into a hiring manager coach, into someone who supports the business, a business partner. Yeah, a business partner. Yeah.
I'm sure they're much more energized by that as well.
Yes, most.
No, but I'm saying, like, I'm sure many of them don't miss the admin. I mean, it's like on the HR side, you don't get any HR leader be like, I really love doing all that manual work.
Yeah, no, I don't think anyone misses the admin, that's for sure. But this is a big change. And change is always hard. So our head of talent acquisition and the team are accompanying this change and trying to make sure that, people are okay with it and they have what they need. So that's why I said most. It's, for some people, change is harder than others.
What about internally? Do you have a talent marketplace that you use? What does that look like?
Yes, we do have a talent marketplace, and as one of the first people to have ever launched a talent marketplace, it would have been weird for us not to have one. So this is my third talent marketplace after launching. Yes.
Wow. Okay.
After launching the one at Schneider, which was one of the first with Unilever. And then launching the one with Seagate, and now this is my third at Ubisoft. We use Eightfold, which goes back to what I was telling you about skills everywhere. Eightfold is renowned for using skills for the matching, and they have a huge taxonomy of skills that we're piggybacking on.
So you can benefit from all of the data points they have already.
Right, and they also work with the gaming industry a lot, which supports us in our functions and in our different, parts of our organization.
Why Eightfold? Because you've gone through 3 different companies, you've experienced different platforms. I work with a lot of those companies. Why Eightfold? I'm always interested to know, what was that decision behind that choice?
I think it was very much neck and neck. And I think a lot of these organizations offer similar functionalities and things on offer. Why Eightfold specifically is for this taxonomy of skills, for using skills everywhere. It felt like Eightfold when we together with IT and the business and HR, when we looked at what really brought us over the line was skills. Not necessarily the user experience, not necessarily how it looks, or not necessarily some of the functionalities, but more the philosophy of skills everywhere and the huge taxonomy of skills that they have.
Love that. How has that been received internally?
Well, we are still in some of our pilots.
Okay.
We launched HR, IT, so 2 very large global functions. We launched in one of our global sales functions. We have recently launched 3 very large studios. The reception in itself has been overwhelmingly positive. We launched one studio recently, and in 24 hours, almost 50% of the studio was already logged in, created their profile, We've known for some time through our listening strategy and our surveys that this is what our employees want. They want a platform where they can find what jobs are there, and network.
I have to ask some more questions because you've been on this journey, and what advice would you give to people that are considering creating an internal talent marketplace?
I get that question quite a lot.
What shouldn't they be doing?
Maybe let's start with what they should.
Yeah, should.
First, definitely leadership support.
Yeah.
In all my 3 experiences, leadership support was so important. The CEO, the head of HR, the business leaders, they need to understand what this change is, because that is going to shift things, and it's going to like turn things upside down for many people, especially people managers. So leadership support is really crucial.
How do you get that though? People always say leadership support, but how did you approach that?
Business case. The talent marketplace is a win-win for the organization and for employees, and it is one of many, but maybe few. I don't know if one of many or few, but where it is a win-win for the organization and employees, because on an organizational level, attrition goes down. So you keep your best people. Instead of them going on LinkedIn and finding a job outside, they're looking for a job within your organization, which is great. There's definitely a business case in terms of spending and budgets, because every time someone leaves, there is a recruiting cost, there is a ramp-up cost, there is attrition cost is usually quite high. The business case is you want to save money and keep your talent, and especially in terms of competition. I mean, you as an avid gamer, I don't need to tell you that when some of our people leave and go to a competitor, that's not great. We want to leave our talents, keep them at Ubisoft. And I'm sure many companies want to do that. So when you monetize that and you show the value of that in terms of money and how much you're going to save, then business leaders listen.
They normally listen.
And they say, well, yeah, let's do it.
Was there something else you were going to say? Because you was going through your list and then I cut you off the top.
Yeah, I mean, business support is definitely number one. The right partner is definitely super important, because that's a long-term partnership where you need to be on the same page, both on philosophy, but also technically and technologically. So that's super important. And number 3 is do not underestimate, and maybe that's also what you shouldn't do not underestimate the magnitude of change. This is a big change. Companies have been doing the same thing when it comes to internal mobility for, I'm going to say 100 years maybe, and that is going to change that. It is going to empower employees for them to be in the driver's seat and to really manage and lead their careers, and that could be perceived as disempowering some managers, which in reality is not the case, but it could be
the
perceived.
Talent hoarders.
Right, the talent hoarders. Like, Chris is a superstar. I don't want to let him go.
Yeah, I think someone said talent moving in from talent importers to talent exporters in the organization.
Correct.
And
at Ubisoft, this is one of the things that we appreciate a lot in our managers and our leaders, to act like owners and grow talents for the entire organization. If you have superstars and you keep them on your team forever and ever, yes, you will ship a game, but these people will not stay forever. They will leave.
Yeah.
So, and I think that a lot of our strongest leaders understand that, and they are becoming talent exporters.
Yeah, that took me a while as a manager to get into my head, because when I used to lose some of my top talent, I was like, get really frustrated. And then I realized I was also, I was in the same role myself for 5 years. And that's also why I left. So when I kind of look back on it, I was like, oh, this is also why I left, because I was in the same role and I was told that, Chris, you're great in the role. I was bringing in millions of pounds in sales to the business, and they were like, we don't want you to move anywhere else, but stay where you are. And I was like, well, I'm leaving then. So it's like, you're gonna lose them anyway if you don't do that.
Yeah, classic.
What are some of the mistakes you see companies make
with talent marketplaces? Going too fast, too quick.
As in, like, putting everyone in rather than creating small...
or not really thinking it through and not understanding. Because I've been doing talent marketplaces for so many years, I have a lot of companies coming and asking me for consulting and counseling. And what I see is that a lot of companies want to go super fast. And that typically doesn't work, because it is a big change. You need to prepare for the change. You need to implement the change. And then you need to make sure that, reinforce the change. And that doesn't happen by you just clicking that go
live.
And this is not about the tool. I know we talk a lot about the talent marketplace as a tool, but it's not about the tool. The tool is secondary. It is about the change. It's about the, this new concept of mobility. It's not the tool. And a lot of companies think that, if I buy the right tool, everything else is going to be fine.
I see that all the time in every tool in the HR space. And whenever I'm talking to leaders in the show, it's always the actual execution part, the strategy part, the change management part that they underestimate.
Right.
And it's ongoing. It's not like it's going to a couple of months. It's ongoing, continuous change. It's interesting to see companies roll it out. What about what did you find to be the most effective way to launch strategies, do you think?
Yeah, one of the things that was very successful, and this is something that we did, for example, at Schneider, is to have ambassadors.
Okay.
Talent marketplace ambassadors. At Schneider, we had about 80 locations, and we had about 2,000 ambassadors in location. And their job was to evangelize, to tell people about the change that is coming, to create town halls, to support by answering the frequently asked questions. Ambassadorship makes it closer to you rather than, there is a big communication from the top down. It makes it like this is happening in, my
local context.
So that was very successful.
How do you find those people?
Volunteering. We just send calls for volunteers, and
nice.
HR supports in location, and we say this is a big change that is coming. Do you want to be part of that? We go to ERGs. Because employer resource groups, whatever the ERG is, are typically a great place to start. In addition to that, you need comms partnership, and you need leadership comms partnership. Because what we've seen, and this is, as I said, for the third time, what we've seen a lot is when you get communication from your leader, you are more likely to click on it and open it and read what's there.
As opposed to it's from HR.
Right.
This is another HR.
And not necessarily from HR, or like an unmonitored
I get it,
mailbox, or
it's from your leader.
More personal.
Yeah. And also, I'm sure like you want it to be spoken about in like the town halls and stuff like that.
Yes.
Often.
Yes.
From the leadership team,
of course,
as well. This isn't like a HR initiative. It can't be seen like that.
Right.
It's a business.
True.
Yeah.
True. And actually, I'm glad you say that, because when we at Ubisoft, when we're looking at launching, these launches typically come from a business leader.
Yeah.
So when we launch in a studio, the studio managing director sends an email to the team, or the studio managing director has that as part of his or her town hall. And then we send an email to the team. So it always comes from the business leader.
It may seem like a small detail, but that's huge difference.
I agree.
Coming from those people, as opposed to hearing about it from like an email from the HR team or on the internet or however, and it's probably mixed between 10 other messages that they may receive. I can't really go through any podcast without talking about AI. How, at the moment, what are some of the ways that you're seeing AI utilized in HR, but also the talent strategy?
I can't have a day without talking about AI. It seems like that's everything everyone wants to talk about all the time. I think AI has been in HR for some time. When you talk about talent marketplace, it's been there for 6-7 years, and AI is the one doing the matching and whatnot. But AI is also happening elsewhere. I think you can see, chatbots now. HR services are relying on AI a lot, especially for larger companies, where some of the questions that you get, how many days of holidays do I still have? That does not require a human being to answer. You could do that through AI. So I see a lot of servicing happening through AI. A lot of development is happening through AI, where AI, based on where you are today, what skills you have, and what skills you want to have, is suggesting learning path for you, is suggesting coaching, mentoring, networking. So all what could help you in actually getting to where you want to be.
That's happening also within the talent marketplace.
Most talent marketplaces, a lot of them. But it's also the interoperability of that, because you're not going to be, in most cases, you're not going to be doing the learning on the talent marketplace, but it's going to take you somewhere else. And this is where some of the LMSs have really stepped up in terms of AI and in terms of suggestions. Of course, there is a lot of AI and learning, not in terms of tools, but in terms of content. I'm sure, like Ubisoft, many companies out there are starting to look at upskilling their teams in AI, especially generative AI. This is something that my team at the moment is definitely looking at and looking into. What programs can we launch and how fast can we do that in order for all of our employees, especially those in more production roles like shipping games. How can they use AI in order for us to ship faster, better quality, etc. So everywhere.
Do you have any guardrails that you've put in place with the team?
Yeah, I love that question. And when I reflect back, if I go back to the talent marketplace, when we started wanting to launch a talent marketplace using AI at Schneider in 2018, that was one of the questions of our CHRO and our CIO, who said, AI is using machine learning, which means whatever you feed it,
exactly,
and it learns. How are you going to guarantee that we're not going to have, a lot of engineers who are male from a certain age? And that is where you look at technology to make sure that, bias is not seeping in, that if it is, then it is curated. So that is important. And that brings me to the guardrails. One, you need to monitor AI. You can't just let it go and then see what happens. It does need to be monitored. And two, in the uses, it is so important for you to also not just rely on AI. This is a lot of what we tell our managers, because some of our managers say, okay, so the matching is going to be done by the talent marketplace based on skills. But how do I ensure that the person actually has the skills that are on their CV?
Because anyone can write it.
Because anyone can do anything. And we say, well, the tool is just helping you with the matching. But you're still in control of the interviewing. You're still in control of assessing the skills. No one's going to get hired just by AI. From a legal perspective, let's not even go there. No one's going to get promoted just because AI said, she is the right person for this role. There needs to be, checks and balances. So that's one in terms of guardrails. Two, I think there is a need for us to keep assessing. There is a need for us to say, okay, how can we make it better? Because it is a continuous improvement.
I think there's a reason why people call it co-pilot. It's there not to replace you, it's your co-pilot.
Agreed.
Right? And it's allowing those recruiters to spend more time having valuable conversations. And doing those things, and freeing them up to have much more value add tasks, to do much more value add tasks as well.
Totally.
And that's also going to create a much better candidate experience. So it's empowering leaders, and managers.
I think so. And I think it's important for us as leaders and as HR leaders to think about it as such, because what we want is to hire and promote the best talents and have the right people in the right place. And as you said, at Ubisoft, we get more than 1 million application and 1 million CV per year.
Wow.
For a company our size, that is a lot. And that is a testament to our employer brand. You can't have recruiters go through these. In many cases, there needs to be a layer of, and that is great, because at the end of the day, we're going to end up finding the best talents in the right place at the right time. You can't only rely on people to do that, but then the interview is going to happen with a human being. The assessment could happen with a human being. So it is a co-pilot.
Last thing I want to talk about is it's been a wild ride the last 3 years, and I know a big part of your workforce is also remote hybrid. How are you kind of making sure you can create a culture of well-being in a hybrid distributed work?
I'm very happy you asked about that, because well-being is one of our top priorities at Ubisoft, and it's also one of our strategic priorities. We know very well that if our people are doing well, we ship games, and we ship great games. We work in a creative industry, and you as a player of our games, you would understand that you need creative people to be healthy and happy and excited about coming to work. So yes, a lot of people are working remotely. We have a hybrid model in pretty much everywhere that we operate. In some places, there is a lot more people at the office. In some others, there is a lot more people at home. We are trying to find our balance. There is no guidebook for that. There is very much a test and learn approach, and each one of our locations that are very different. You know, a studio in Singapore is not the same as a studio in Montreal or a smaller studio in Bulgaria. They all have different needs. The culture is very different. So we're really trying to make sure that it is a local approach. What we also want is to have more people interacting, because also for well-being, sometimes it gets lonely.
Yeah.
And you being remote 5 days a week, 4 weeks a month and so on, eventually you start feeling lonely and you start needing this need for interaction and meeting people. And we all know that we ship games better and easier when we come together. Now, we've learned a lot from COVID, where most of us were bound to be at home. And even through we shipped great games. It is a test and learn. We need to get to a place where the equation of hybrid working, well-being, and shipping great games is balanced. That's like the trifecta.
Yeah. I love the fact that you said it is a strategic imperative. Like you said, it is like,
it is.
Well-being in the past was kind of, in many companies, it's seen as like a nice to have, that we have these apps and we have these things, right? It's very fluffy, but it has a direct impact. In your case, you say shipping games, right? Which is how you make money as well. So it's also good, not just the right thing to do, but it's also great business. And I don't think people really make that connection enough.
And for us, I mean, yes, both things you said are true, but for us, it's also a question of culture and what type of company we as leaders want to build and continue building. And our company is founded on this culture of kind and caring and supportive of our employees and the gamers and their safety. So it is also pretty cultural for us to say, this is what we support.
I know it can be intense as well, right? I follow gaming really closely, and I know there's a lot of pressure in gaming companies to get games shipped.
Of course.
And pressure from the community.
Time.
And from the community, right?
Yes.
Like people like me and and others were like, where's our game?
Yes.
You promised the game will be shipped on this date.
Yes.
Right. So you've got literally millions of people saying, hey, where's our game?
Yeah. I mean, our gamers are very, very loyal.
Yeah.
And they want us to be shipping games as fast as possible. And that has an impact on our people, our employees as well.
Yeah.
A lot of times I get like, where is Skull and Bones? Where is the next Assassin's Creed?
Yeah.
Well, it's coming, but that means that a lot of people have to be hard at work to get it out.
It's important, like you said, you got to have a balance, because otherwise people are just going to burn out. You can't be creative and be like that at the same time. Those two things don't go together. As well, I know that personally, because of my sort of struggles with mental health and stuff like that. Like, it's very difficult to be creative and locked in and really thinking outside the box when you're stressed out and you're anxious, you're overworked, you're burned out.
Totally.
It doesn't work.
And strategically, I think it's also a question of continuity. We don't ship only one game.
Yeah.
We ship sometimes tens per year. So it's not like when you ship the game, you're done.
No, we
also
it just
need
starts
to think
at that point.
Exactly.
You got the DLCs, you got the releases, you got you got so much.
So we
That's
need
the beginning
our people
almost
to be at their best all the time, not just until they ship the game, because there is always another game to ship.
That's a good point. I don't think people realize that. Once there's games that I'm still playing that came out years ago. The same game I'm still playing, and it's still being updated, and there's still additions.
Ubisoft, I hope.
Yeah. Good. Yeah, definitely. Before I let you go, what parting advice would you give to the HR leaders of tomorrow that'll be sitting in your seat one day?
Test and learn. I come from an HR background through my various experiences that is very much into test and learn. If it hasn't been done before, that's not an issue. Let's be the first to do it. And I do feel that some, not to say many, HR leaders out there prefer to be in the more, what's the word I'm looking for?
Tried and tested?
Yeah, the tried and tested, the safer path. And I'm not saying you should take risks all day long, but in this growth mindset, you need to test and learn. You need to try new things. Things that you thought might work today, because today is different than 10 years ago. So that's one big advice, which is, try new things. or at least let people on your teams try.
Challenge the status quo.
Challenge the status quo, definitely. That's one. Two, the world is changing and businesses are changing. And in some cases, HR could be seen as far away from the business. Be a stronger business partner by understanding the changes that are affecting the business, especially with AI, especially with generative AI, especially with the economies of the world that are shifting and changing. That's maybe another advice. And three, and that maybe joins number 1 and 2, don't be afraid of technology. Technology, as you said, is a co-pilot. It's something there that is meant to support. It is not replacing us as an HR leader or the HR community. It is augmenting what we do so that we could be like HR 2.0.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think these are the advice.
Well, listen, I feel like next time we got to come visit you in Paris.
Definitely.
So we can play some games.
Definitely. You know, you're gonna love our offices. We have wonderful headquarters in Paris, and on every floor we have multiple gaming lounges.
Yeah.
And of course, you could play all of our games for free.
Nice.
So you're welcome.
You heard it here. Look, I've got a commitment now on camera, so you can't back out.
Yeah.
Well, listen, I appreciate you coming on the show. It's been great to get to know you over the years. I know it's the first time we've met, and
likewise.
I appreciate all the support you've shown us and the community, and you've always been great at giving back on our events and now here in person. And I wish you all the best until next week.
Thanks a lot. Great talking.